Hi, I'm Jennifer Chin. My parents always told me that true wealth comes from humility and smart work. While other kids dreamed of being doctors or lawyers, I was mesmerized by the stock market. By 12, I was devouring investment books, tracking market trends with an obsession that baffled my parents. "Sweetie, maybe you should spend more time with your friends," my mom would suggest, eyeing me over my growing stack of financial reports. "This is fun for me, Mom," I'd reply without looking up. "Did you know Warren Buffett bought his first stock at 11? She chuckled, shaking her head. "Just promise me you won't forget to live while you're building your empire." That promise became harder to keep as my hobby evolved into a passion and eventually, an expertise. By 16, I was managing my own modest portfolio. Earning a full scholarship to study finance at Harvard felt like destiny. That's where I met Michael. He was studying business administration, charming, ambitious, eager to climb the corporate ladder. We met during finals week, reaching for the same economics textbook. "Ladies first," he said with a warm smile. I laughed. "Thanks. I'm Jennifer." "Michael, maybe we could study together?" One study session turned into daily coffee dates, then into something more. Unlike others, Michael admired my ambition. "You're going to dominate the business world," he'd say, watching me analyze market trends. "Any company would be lucky to have you." What he didn't know was that I had no intention of working for anyone else. My scholarship covered everything, so every extra dollar I earned went straight into investments. By graduation, my portfolio had grown exponentially, but I kept it quiet. I wanted success on my own terms, not as the girl with a trust fund. Michael landed a prestigious job at Sterling Industries, a major tech firm in Boston. I chose to work independently. When I turned down several high-profile job offers, he was skeptical. "Are you sure?" he asked. "These are dream opportunities." "I have my own plans," I said simply. "Trust me." A year later, we got married in a modest ceremony. Michael's mother, Patricia, wasn't thrilled about my career choice. "Investment consulting?" she'd sneer. "Is that even a real job?" I just smiled, remembering my parents' lessons on humility. By then, my portfolio had quietly grown past $50 million, strategically diversified, making me one of Sterling's largest individual shareholders. Not even Michael knew. Michael thrived at Sterling, working under James Wilson, the arrogant VP of operations. Wilson was infamous for his outdated views, especially about women. "The problem with modern marriages," he'd say at company events, "is women forgetting their place." Michael would laugh awkwardly, avoiding confrontation. It irritated me, but I let it slide until the annual executive party. Sterling was unveiling restructuring plans, and as a key shareholder, I had a vested interest in attending. "Are you sure you want to come?" Michael asked. "These events can be dull for non-employees." "I think it's time I took a closer look at your work," I replied, applying my makeup. I chose a classic black dress, pearl earrings, and my grandmother's vintage watch, a silent witness to every major decision I'd made. The hotel ballroom buzzed with chatter, crystal chandeliers glittered overhead, and champagne lingered in the air. Michael led me toward James Wilson, who was holding court near the bar. "Jennifer!" "Michael!" James called, raising his glass. We were just discussing Sterling's exciting new direction. "Cutting RD for short-term profits?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Doesn't innovation drive sustainable growth?" James's smile faltered. "Ah, the little wife has opinions on business, does she?" Laughter rippled through the group. Michael shifted uncomfortably. "She likes to read the financial news," he said quickly. "Honey, maybe we should grab some drinks?" But James wasn't done. "Sterling's biggest problem," he announced loudly, is too many voices from people who don't understand real business, like housewives who think reading the Wall Street Journal makes them experts. The crowd chuckled, but I noticed CEO Thomas Richards watching with interest. My husband, once so proud of my intelligence, stared at his shoes. Before I could speak, a familiar voice interrupted. Actually, James, you might want to rethink that. Sarah Martinez, my private banker and confidant, stepped forward, her smile razor-sharp. Should I explain, Jennifer, or would you like to? James's smug expression faltered. What's going on here? I straightened, feeling my grandmother's watch against my wrist. The time had come. Since you're so concerned about shareholder value, James, I said, my voice steady, perhaps we should discuss the report I'm presenting at Monday's board meeting, the one outlining why your restructuring plan will fail. James turned crimson. Board meeting? What are you talking about? CEO Richards stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. Jennifer Chin, JC Holdings. I knew the name sounded familiar. I smiled. Surprise. Strategic anonymity can be a powerful tool. Michael's face drained of color. What's going on? He whispered. Sarah stepped closer, her tone slicing through the silence. Your wife, she announced, owns 51% of Sterling Industries shares. And no, she doesn't spend her days shopping. For a moment, the room was deathly silent. Then chaos erupted. James Wilson's face cycled through shades of red I didn't know were possible. Michael looked like he might faint. This is absurd, James sputtered. There must be some mistake. Sarah, ever composed, tapped on her tablet. I can show you the documentation if you'd like. I have all the records right here. CEO Richards glanced at me, a small smile tugging at his lips. That won't be necessary, Sarah. I suspected as much for some time. The board has been impressed with Mrs. Chin's insights and recommendations for years. I lifted my champagne glass, meeting James Wilson's stunned gaze. Funny, I mused. You were right about one thing, James. Too many voices can be a problem. It's time we fix that. And just like that, the balance of power shifted. James turned to him, stunned. You knew? Of course, Richards replied smoothly. Why do you think your restructuring plan hasn't been approved? Mrs. Chin raised significant objections. Michael finally found his voice, though it wavered. Jennifer, how? I met his wide-eyed gaze. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. I glanced at the growing crowd of onlookers. My office is just upstairs, Richards offered. Shall we? The elevator ride was suffocating. Michael stole uncertain glances at me. James seethed in silence, and Sarah, ever composed, stood at my side. Richard's office was expansive, the Boston skyline stretching wide beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. James all but lunged for the chair nearest Richard's desk, as if proximity could restore his slipping authority. Well, Richards said, settling into his seat, this has been an eventful evening. Eventful? James exploded. This is outrageous. She can't possibly. She can, and does. Sarah cut in, placing documents on the desk. Jennifer Chin, through carefully structured investment vehicles, controls 51% of Sterling Industries. She's been building her position for 5 years. Michael's face twisted from confusion to something closer to betrayal. 5 years? But we've been married for 3. I started investing in Sterling before we met. I said evenly. The company had potential but needed modernization. I saw an opportunity. Modernization, James sneered. Yes, I replied calmly, like fostering innovation instead of gutting RD, like respecting employees instead of breeding toxicity. Richards nodded. Mrs. Chin's insights have been invaluable. Her analysis has outperformed every expectation. Michael's voice was barely above a whisper. Why didn't you tell me? I held his gaze. Would it have changed anything? Would you have defended me against James's comments if you'd known I was Sterling's majority shareholder? He flinched. The answer was clear. James shot to his feet. This is preposterous. I've given 15 years to this company. You can't just let it rot under bad leadership. I interrupted. James, your restructuring plan would cripple Sterling. The board won't support it. Richards leaned forward. In fact, we need to discuss your future here. James paled. My future? I stood, meeting his glare head-on. Your leadership is outdated. Your strategies are short-sighted. And your conduct is unacceptable. Sterling deserves better. You can't fire me, he barked. You're just a shareholder. Sarah's voice was like steel. And yes, she can. Michael remained frozen, unreadable. You told me you were consulting, he murmured. You said it was small scale. I exhaled. I never lied. Michael, I just didn't tell you everything. Would you have respected my decisions if I had? James jabbed a finger in Michael's direction. She's tearing everything apart. Women like her. That's enough. Richard snapped, his tone like a blade. James, you'll receive your separation package details tomorrow. Leave. James stormed out, slamming the door. Sarah followed, leaving just me, Michael, and Richards. Richards turned to me. Mrs. Chin, will you be taking a more active role in the company? Yes, I said firmly, starting with a full review of our leadership and culture. Michael said nothing. For the first time that night, I wasn't sure whether he would follow me into the future or remain stuck in the past. Michael finally spoke, his voice cracking. And what about us? I turned to him, my voice steady. That depends. Are you ready to see me as an equal, or am I still just the little wife you asked to stay quiet at company events? I need time, he stammered, standing abruptly. This is all too much. He left, and I watched his retreating figure. Richards cleared his throat. Family and business rarely mix well. True, I said, exhaling, but principles shouldn't be compromised. The days that followed were a whirlwind. James's firing made headlines. Sterling Industries, a shake-up at the top. The stock dipped briefly before rebounding as my vision became public. Michael stayed with his parents, processing everything. His mother left a string of hostile voicemails, which I deleted without hesitation. My focus remained on Sterling, revitalizing RD, implementing work-life balance policies, and fostering innovation. A week later, Michael returned. He looked worn, his usual polish replaced by exhaustion. Can we talk? He asked hesitantly. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat, then immediately stood again, pacing. I've been thinking about everything, he began, about us, about work. And? I was wrong, he admitted. I let James and others disrespect you. I should have stood up for you. I was so focused on my career that I forgot what really matters. I watched him, my expression unreadable. Change doesn't come through words, Michael. It comes through actions. Are you ready to show me you see me as your equal? He nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. Yes, I am. A pause. Then, softer, but you weren't completely honest either. You kept a huge part of your life hidden from me. How are we supposed to have a real marriage with secrets like that? You're right, I admitted. I should have trusted you with the truth. But ask yourself, why didn't I feel I could? He sank into the chair, rubbing his temples. Because I showed you I couldn't be trusted, he murmured, every time I laughed at James's jokes. Every time I told you to stay quiet, I proved I cared more about office politics than my wife. The next few weeks tested everything: my marriage, my resolve, and my ability to steer Sterling through massive change. James Wilson hadn't gone quietly. He hired a lawyer, threatened a lawsuit. His allies whispered behind my back, "She's tearing down our traditions." This is what happens when you let emotions run a business. But facts don't lie. Within a month, employee satisfaction soared by 40%. RD, finally free from James's grip, filed 12 patent applications. The stock climbed steadily. At home, Michael hovered in a strange limbo, sleeping in the guest room, walking on eggshells. His mother, Patricia, however, had no such hesitation. One afternoon, she stormed into my house, designer heels clicking like gunfire. "We need to talk," she announced. "By all means," I said drily, closing the door behind her. "This power trip of yours has gone far enough," she snapped. "You've made your point. Now step back and let the men handle business." I raised an eyebrow. "The men? You've humiliated Michael enough. His colleagues don't even know how to treat him anymore. Do you have any idea what this is doing to his career?" "Humiliating?" I repeated. "Like being laughed at during business functions? Like being dismissed as just a housewife?" "That's different," she said, waving a manicured hand. "How so?" "That's just how business works. Men need to." "Need to what, Patricia?" I cut in. "Undermine women to prop up their egos? Pretend competence doesn't exist if it comes from the wrong gender?" "You tricked him," she burst out. "My son married you thinking you were a normal wife. And now..." "Now what?" Michael's voice cut through the tension. "Michael!" Patricia turned, relief washing over her face. "Thank goodness you're here. We need to talk sense into her before she destroys everything." But Michael wasn't looking at her. His eyes were locked on me, filled with something I hadn't seen in weeks: understanding. "Mom," he said evenly, "you need to leave." "What?" "But..." "Now," he said firmly. Patricia stared at him, stunned, then scoffed and stalked out. After she left, silence settled between us. Michael sank onto the couch, exhaustion etched in his face. "I heard everything," he said quietly, "and I finally realized I've been just like her, treating you like you needed to be managed, not supported. And I'm sorry." I sat beside him, keeping a cautious distance. "I never wanted to outshine you, Michael. I just wanted your respect, as a wife, a partner, a person." "You have it," he said softly. "I know I don't deserve your trust right now, but I want to earn it. Not because of your money or power, but because I love you, and I want to be the partner you deserve." My phone buzzed. "Sarah." "Jennifer," she said, "James has withdrawn his lawsuit. Word about Sterling's latest quarterly projections is spreading. They're impressive." "Send me the details," I said with a smile. "And Sarah, thank you for everything." When I hung up, Michael asked, "Good news?" "James is backing down," I confirmed. "It seems success really is the best revenge." Michael nodded thoughtfully. "What happens now? With Sterling? With us?" "Sterling will keep evolving. We're rolling out a new parental leave policy and launching a mentorship program for women in tech next month." "And us?" I took a deep breath. "That depends. Are you ready for a marriage of equals? Really ready?" He hesitated, then smiled. "I'd like to try, starting with moving out of the guest room, if you're okay with that. It's killing my back." I laughed, surprising myself. "We'll need couples counseling, and you'll have to stand up to your mother." "Done," he said, grinning. "Though maybe we should have dinner with her next week. I'd love to see her face when you explain your women's leadership initiative." For the first time in weeks, I felt real hope.